Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, Shell, Total, and ENI on Friday signed the final investment decision to give the go-ahead for the construction of Train-7 of the Nigerian liquefied natural gas project. It was reported that at a small ceremony witnessed by representatives of all the partners in the NLNG office in Abuja, the final investment decision was finally taken on the commencement of the project that will expand the plant's production capacity by 35% and boost Nigeria's competitiveness in the global LNG market. The Managing Director, CEO of Nigeria LNG, Tony Atta, noted at the signing ceremony that, and I quote, the FID will allow the expansion to increase the capacity of NLNG's six-train plant from the extant 22 million tons per annum to 30 million tons per annum, unquote. Joining us now to discuss this and other issues is Toyin Akinsho, publisher, Africa Oil and Gas Report. Toyin, welcome to the Morning Show.
You're welcome to the Morning Show. Good morning.
Good to have you here. Well,
thank you for having me.
You had the introduction.
Yes.
What is the significance of this latest development with regard to Train-7 of the Nigerian liquefied natural gas project, both for Nigeria and also the global market, where Nigeria accounts for 6% of the global LNG supply?
It is big. It sort of pretty well returns us back to reckoning. If you are that sort of person who is export-minded, you know, we were basically sleeping in, I mean SLIPPING, you know, on the ranking. You know, we used to be number 5, then we used to be number 4, then we were close to 3 as, you know, exporters of LNG, you know, and then we stopped investing. But now coming now that you have this, you know, final investment decision, you then basically are going to put about maybe 12, 13 or $15 billion into some midstream facility that will help you, you know, refrigerate, you know, raw natural gas, you know, and put them in bottles in the vessel and take them to, you know, Asia. That's essentially what you're doing. So you're going to be exporting, you know, from that new facility, from that new train. I mean, a train basically is a plant. Mm-hmm. You've got 7 different plants already, and then you have this.
No, we have 6. This is the 7th.
This is the 7th.
I mean, sorry, you've got 6 different. So I think when we started, we had 2 million tons, and then we had the second train was probably about 3. And then you had, you know, what they called, I mean, the breakthrough really was the one they called NLNG Plus.
Okay.
And I think that was those were trains 5 and 6. So we were 22. I mean, but, you know, capacity is not necessarily always delivery, especially in Nigeria, you know. So if you say you had 22 million tons per annum, it doesn't mean that you produce all of that 22 million tons, you know. It simply means that that is what that plant can produce.
Yeah.
So when we add these 8 million tons, you know, we would have the capacity to do 30, but maybe we'll be doing 28 or 29 or 26, depending on several things. The source of gas, the equipment uptime, you know, and quite a number of other efficiency issues, and also the global challenges of demand and supply.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some of the things that, you know, will. But it's good. You and I know that, and this is not trying to PR them. The Nigerian LNG Limited is one of the best-run companies in the country. It's also one of the companies that pay taxes. So these investment decisions actually means something in terms of tax dividend for Nigeria.
Yeah.
Both at the level of the monies that come to NNPC as a 49% owner. That's money for the treasury, even though NNPC doesn't always remit that money to the treasury. And we have those challenges. I think that there needs to be more robust journalism that try to figure out why NNPC does this to all of us, because this is about our children, this is about, but that's not what we're discussing.
Maybe there's cost recovery in the gas sector too.
So they pay dividends, to NNPC, which is the representative of the federal government here. But then they now also pay the taxes, they now also pay, whatever it is, whether it is income tax, whatever the statute, the government, the authorities, the Nigerian system, requires to be paid. And they pay that, it's probably one of the top 3 payers of revenue to the federal government. So it's a very big thing.
And then they create jobs,
they
employment.
They also create jobs. You add that facility. I saw what you showed, and that's massive. That's a very probably West Africa's largest industrial enterprise. In terms of industry, in terms of people doing things. And that means probably probably 5,000 people, probably 6,000, probably 4,000 people. At the level of construction, we're going to be constructing this from 2020 to probably 2023. It's
or
going
2024.
It will then come on stream, about
5 years time.
in
Yeah.
5 years time.
All of that phase means the Okada guys in Port Harcourt,
The fabrication,
exactly,
Okay.
The welders, whether engineers, accountants, all manner of professions.
Amazing.
So this is very big. This is very
is.
big. That's the positive side.
That's the positive
challenge
side.
I'm always having is whether we should be focused on exporting our gas.
Okay,
that's really my own.
I would also like to touch on what you said about capacity not always meaning delivery. Now, we know that this project has been in the making for a very long time. We're looking at over 16 years or more. And, this FID is a huge step in the project. But then there's talks about how it was almost in jeopardy just because of the government's decision not to abide by the rule of law. But his compliance with the rule of law, that is in the case of Dasuki and Showore, his compliance to the court orders, sped up the process and, it's put everyone at ease. Now, I'd like to ask, in terms of keeping to schedule, in terms of ensuring that the budget for this project is, utilized adequately, and in terms of, like you said, the creation of the job opportunities, do you think the capacity we have at the moment, the capacity based on the promises that have been given, the capacity based on the resources we've been given, is going to, adequately be delivered?
Well, we need to understand, this is a private project. The one thing about the NLNG Limited is that even though NNPC is is a 49% holder, it is not the lead company. It is not the deciding,
Because you have other stakeholders.
You
You have Total and all of those.
So you don't have those kind of challenges of the JVs. The NLNG is an incorporated joint venture, which means that is a company. So all of those companies that have interests, 25.5% share, 10-something%
for
Total, ENI
10.1.
All of those shareholders are already inside the company. They are not JV that just come and, have a conversation and go away. So everything about, funding, is raised internationally. The gas resources are already taken care. In fact, that's why you had all of that length of time. You've got to be sure that ENI, for example, has the gas to supply, or you're going to go for other gas supplier, or you've got to be sure that Shell already, knows where it's going to find the money to pay. So it's not exactly the same thing with a company like NNPC, which is not as structured, which might have a challenge. For example, what you're asking about in terms of deliverability is, say, a project like the OBOB, or Escravos Lagos gas pipeline expansion. That is a project, that is being operated by a government company that is inefficient. So all of those challenges will come. But when you have a private sector driven company that is efficient on its own, all of these things don't come to play. When I mentioned deliverability, there are challenges about the subsurface and the surface issues about gas in Nigeria. If, for example, vandals tamper with, the flow of gas, from one of the several gas fields that are meant to supply gas to NLNG, then you have a reduced delivery. You don't have the 22 or 30 million tons, per annum that you should have. You probably will have 26. So that's the kind of thing. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. If you, for example, Shell, one of the fields is Baran field, for example, and then suddenly something happens. Baran is in Bayelsa, and then something happens, the vandals take over, So if Baran was supposed to supply 100 million standard cubic feet per day to the NLNG facility, and it doesn't supply it, you move,
Anyway, Tony, we need to take a short break. We need to take a short break.
All right.
When we return, the conversation will continue. But when we come back,
yes,
I'd like you, before we return, to reflect on this. We're talking about Train-7. Tony Atta, the CEO of Nigerian LNG, is talking about Train-12 even.
Exactly.
But we still have gas flaring. So what is being done to make sure that we check the threat of gas flaring to the environment? If we have all these trains, and yet we still have environmental disaster in the Niger Delta. We'll take a short break. When we return, the conversation with Tony Akinsho will continue. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us in our Lagos studio is Tony Akinsho, publisher, Africa Oil and Gas Report. Now, Tony, before we went on break, I'd asked you, yes, we now have up to 7 trains. The 7th train will be delivered, we're told, in 5 years' time. But we still have this problem of gas flaring in the Niger Delta with palpable threats to the environment. One of the advantages of this 7th train is the claim that it will reduce gas flaring. What is the guarantee that government is actually serious about putting an end to gas flaring, despite all the promises that have been made over the years?
I think we're not putting this in context enough. And I think, part of the challenges that we have is the robust journalism around this whole issue of oil and gas. We've actually reduced gas flaring in Nigeria significantly in the last 10 years. We are down to roughly 10% of the entire volume. Let's say, for example, about 2008, we probably were flaring about 20%. And if we don't, so the law is that you don't have a new project, especially if it's a sizable project, you cannot flare. And that's happening. The DPR basically ensures that everybody ensures we should take more of that flare out of the total. And there are quite a number of, activities. There's a bid round going on as we speak that government can take. If you are a consistent flarer of gas, government can grab, your field and then sell that flare to companies, that are willing to take advantage of the gas you are flaring to do, industries to provide, feedstock for CNG, for methanol, for whatever, that process is going on. It started roughly late 2018. We probably will have, the final bid sometime in 2020. That process is, because you see, there are situations in which you can't even, some companies can't come with enough projects, to stop flaring entirely. And so if you don't have ideas about what you can do with what you're doing, with the flares that you have, those who have those ideas, the government will take that from you and give to them. So that's going on. I don't think we have the challenges of flare the way people put it now. If you read routine DPR reports, we probably put it down. If you read 90, it will tell you
that the threat, the problem still exists.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and people are still suffering from that.
Problem
Yes.
these days. Yes, it's good to celebrate Train-7 coming on stream. And I guess there will be off-takers in Europe. I don't know whether you know who those off-takers are.
More like in Asia.
And what the
probably
plan
not
is.
in Europe.
Maybe in Asia.
In Asia.
Yeah. So what is the plan with regard to that?
Yes.
But more importantly, we're talking about exporting gas. Some people even say Nigeria is more of a gas country than, a fossil fuel country.
Yeah.
But this gas that we're celebrating, that everybody is excited about, it will bring revenue of up to $20 billion. It will create jobs. It will deepen fabrication capacity. Yes. We don't get the gas in Nigeria here. The Gencos are protesting. The Discos are talking. There's always a complaint about pipeline vandalism in the electricity sector. And so what is the problem, really? What we cannot give ourselves,
how can we give others?
I'm happy you brought. I'm happy. I didn't want to rain on anybody's birthday or something, which is the reason.
Today is December 31st.
No, as well.
Which is the reason why I didn't want to bring up the idea of. I personally, would rather vote for domesticating gas projects than actually have exports. What, for example, this would do. Already we export roughly 3.5 or so billion standard cubic feet of gas every day. That's about the size of the gas consumption of NLNG currently. When they add this, they are going to shoot to about 5 billion standard cubic feet of gas a day. Whereas we do not utilize up to 1.5 billion standard cubic feet in the domestic space. And you and I know that if we utilize our gas, if you and I know that gas can do methanol, gas can do fertilizers, gas can do CNG, gas can actually replace diesel in your car. We can replace the petrol, the gasoline in your car. Gas can, a whole range of several other things. Dangote is building a fertilizer. He's going to be taking gas from the Niger Delta. He's already signed a gas agreement with Chevron, to supply gas for that. And that's the kind of thing that you want to encourage. Using that gas in domestic space. And that also means, once you export less, you actually have more industries. You actually employ more people. Exporting basically is less employment in terms of, So I agree with you. And that's the kind of things that you expect, companies to do. But the key taker of gas anywhere in the world is the power sector. And our power sector I'm looking for the term, our power sector is not geared towards, efficiency. I'm not sure whether it's a tariffing, I'm not sure whether it is the quality of the companies that...
Or the politics.
Or the politics of it, but the point is that the distributors are claiming that they are not collecting enough from you and I. The gas producers are claiming that the distributors are not paying them money. The distributors are saying that, the transmission company of Nigeria, the grid is always collapsing. So even if, the supply, power, it doesn't even get to the distribution companies. Everyone is blaming everybody along the chain. If you listen to the TCN managing director of which that's a company that I think should be privatized, but that's a different thing entirely. Or if
we have this problem at all.
Yes.
We were talking about the off-takers being basically in Asia.
Yes.
And Tony Atta says, this is an expression of confidence in the Nigerian economy. Now, do you have an idea about what the gas purchase agreements
is like?
Yeah.
Okay. This is that. Thank you very much for that, because I keep on saying that we need more robust journalism around this thing.
You publish Africa Oil and Gas. Do it for us.
I need to say,
we are indeed together.
I need to say this. Whereas I know every company that's purchased Mozambican NLNG, I do not know a single. That's been a very opaque thing that the NLNG. We do not know, who they marketed, the Nigerian LNG train. We know that we know about Botas of Turkey and some of those companies that will sign the agreements for the first set of trains. But this Train-7, I have no idea. About those, but I can give you a list of the companies that have purchased the Mozambican LNG. All of those companies in India, in China, in Japan that purchased. Why? Why would I sit in Lagos and know that? I didn't. It wasn't that I was even calling anybody. It is there on their websites. It's not there in NLNG.
So you feel there isn't any accountability there?
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to rain on anybody's birthday. The point is that we need to know those kinds of little details, because that's when they were trying to take final investment decision. It is actually your off-takers. It is those agreements that determine whether you take an FID. It is when you are guaranteed that you are going to supply to this company and that company.
You must be sure of the market.
You must be sure. You're going to have a clear line of sight to your revenue. Before you talk to the banker, who is going to then pay you the money, give you the money to build your facility. So certainly, that is there. I do not know. And I think that that's something that NLNG, it doesn't, I don't want, it's not even, it's not a competitive thing. Let them publish, those things. I think that we need to know. I don't have an idea. And you also mentioned that, Tony Atta says something about, we should go to Train 12. We should, probably. But we also should also have more gas for domain. We should have more fertilizers. We should have more.
Right.
We'll have to call it.
We have to call it a day on this one. Thank you so much.
At this point, thank you very much.
Thank you
for shedding light on the 7th train of the NNNG.